and observations of the various measurements and actions taken in Europe to develop the climate resilient project. What ISOBARS is doing to address this climate change issue. So welcome, Mr. Alvaro, and thank you for being here with us. And if you could start, we would be glad to hear from you.
Well, thanks, Ramon. Thanks, everyone. Well, as I'm the last one, I'm trying to go fast. We are short of time. So the first thing that I want to say is to establish what are the main players in the renewable asset development. As you know, we have three phases or three stages in the renewable asset evolution. The first one is the greenfield stage. That is between you have a rural plant until you have the construction. So this is the development and construction phase. There you have until the RTB, the ready to build phase. You have the developer. That is the first and the main principal actor in that phase. They mix with the asset owner because usually they bought the asset in that phase, and the insurance company that they are going with the asset owner until the end of the asset. Okay. Why this is important? Because climate change risks usually is treated as a flip coin. Let's say it's heads or tails. Wherever it happened. So we cannot cover that risk, and this is not true. We have to allocate that risk and trying to measure it. So in a financial position, what you have to do is, first of all, we analyze the region and analyze the possible risk and possible events that we can have in that asset. After that, you have to measure the risk with all of the predictions that you can have. And after that, make a mitigation possible answers to this risk. Okay. So in that phase, the first thing that we have to do, especially here in Europe and LATAM, is the main consequence of the climate change are four: increasing temperature, rainfall variation, extreme weather events, and sea level rise. So the first thing that you have to do is trying to analyze what happens if one of those events can affect to your asset. In the first one, in the increase in temperatures and heat waves, you have several possible impacts. I'm going to go through three of them. First of all, if we have an increasing of temperatures, the first thing that we have to do is to increase our investment in infrastructure, because we have to increase our voltage. The other thing is that we probably have a reduction of electricity generation because of the temperature of the panels. So we have to take this into account in order to analyze our revenue and our incomes. And the other thing that would probably happen is that we have a decrease in the efficiency about our generation power plants. This is you have another one possible consequences, but these three are the main important one. In the rainfall variation, what we have here is obviously an increased risk of damage of the infrastructure because of the flooding issues. Another thing that because of the change of temperature between in the same day, because of the rainfall, you can have change in wind energy production because of the high temperatures or the lower temperatures and the variations of the wind because of that. And obviously, again, the reduction in the efficiency. This will impact our financial model in the first line, the income line. So this will have you have to analyze very well how can this affect to your asset in order to put some mitigation actions. The third one is extreme weather events. As it was said before in other presentations, these are the hardest one to measure because they are quick and usually they are not. You can't be aware about that, and they have a lot of risk because the level of sinisterity could be very high. So the worst thing that you can have is a collapse of the infrastructure. That it means that you have to build again or rebuild again, and you have to take into account that you probably need more money or more investment for maintenance of the facilities. Okay. And the fourth one is the sea level rise. Well, this is a huge impact you can have with the new measure and with the new studies. You can be more aware about these possible consequences. The biggest issue here is the increased risk of heavy storm because of the change of temperatures, and risk of erosion or corrosion of the coast of the infrastructure. Taking this into account, we are going to go to the region main consequence. Okay, as I'm the director of Europe and America, I'm trying to be focused in these two regions. In Europe, the main consequences is that there are very economic losses and number of people affected by floods. So we can see in Germany last week that they are very huge rainfall and creates new situations that in Germany aren't aware of that. The second point is that these economic losses can have more special events there because of the extreme heat or increase of the raised fires. And something that in Europe is not really usual to have is that we can have water restrictions because of this extreme heat, and this is something that we have to be aware in this specific region. And in America, well, you know, they are aware about huge climate changes and extreme events like Niño or La Niña, but about that, they can have obviously increased economic losses because the floods again. About that, we have some possible affections with food quality because of the lower water provided, and because of the kind of region that we are talking about in LATAM, there are, let's say, a better ambient to spread more diseases because of the insects in that region. So with these two vectors, the region and the consequence, we have to measure that. So what we do is, here you have some examples in assessment of exposure to climate change that is really important in order to after mitigate that impact. For example, in Chile, we have a low impact in increasing temperature, but we have medium rainfall variation, but it's too high in sea level rise and extreme weather events, so we can give to them an issue exposure of risk. This is something really important in order to know how we can mitigate that risk. And this is the strategy and the tools that they have today, the three main actors in this that we see in the first slide. The developers, they don't assume a lot of the risk because the asset owner is the one that they have the biggest risk. But they need to understand the risk in order to develop a good asset. The personal studies and engineering is a big part in the developers and the asset owners. Mixed technologies is on the roof of the asset owner in order to have a mix of generation in order to have a lower risk on the impacts. And as you can see in this chart, the climate forecasting and the climate change study is transversal for the three of them. Is something that they have to take into account in all of their studies along the life of of the asset. So that's what is the core business of ISOBAR. So that is so important in order to introduce these studies in every stage of the asset. So I try to do my best in timing sense. Ramon, please go ahead with the next step, please.
So thank you very much, Alvaro. I found very interesting this walk through the different situations that can happen and how could we address it.